Hello and welcome to episode 6 of my podcast. I'm Brody Moore, also known as Liefx. I decided to sit down with some friends, chat with them, see where it goes, what's happening. If you guys are enjoying, I love it. If you'd like to let me know who you'd like to see next on the show, please comment down in the comments below. I'd love to know who you guys want to hear from. And if I need to change anything, I'm not going to listen to it because I'm enjoying this. And on this episode, we have Mr. Shauna Rogers, also known as Spaceman, joining me to just chat whatever we chat. What is this? Is this our...
You ever see sports events? They're like,
yeah.
It's you're doing an intro, man. That was cool.
I like it. Built-in hype man to the show now. You know what? You just got brought on now as a permanent hype man for every other episode.
Let's go. Just have me for like 6-minute segments and then just kick me off the call.
We keep you in the call and just every once in a while you hear from the back. We'll have a little spaceman cam in the bottom down here.
I like that.
That is wonderful. Yeah. There are so many things I actually wanted to talk to you about. This is fun because right before we went live here, you were just saying, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to hold you for 2 hours or whatever. I'm not that interesting. Au contraire, I was actually very excited to look. I was looking forward to talk to you. Just the other day, we covered like 40 minutes talking about script writing.
We did.
Just chilling in a Discord call.
We really
right?
did that.
And there's a lot I've actually learned for you. I'm gonna start off. I'm gonna make things awkward and just confess my love to you. I actually really look up to you as a commentator.
I look up to you. Are we about to hold hands? I look up to you. This is fun. I like
across
what we're doing
the multiverse.
Wait. Oh, crap.
Other side.
That's good.
Touch the. For anyone just listening to audio, is like, what is going on?
They have no idea what's going on.
You have to watch a YouTube video. It's interesting because I guess to let people know if there's anybody watching this that don't already know who you are and what you do. You commentate across a wide variety of games, from Rocket League to Call of Duty to everything else in between.
Yes.
Yeah, you're what all, because I saw your list of accomplishments on Twitter the 1 year, and you're like, not enough, back to the grind. What was everything on that list? What you had done so much of that. Can you remember?
I don't remember the year.
Just last year, I think it was everything you've done last year, or maybe the year before. But either way, ramble them off because you've done so much recently.
Oh God, I don't. It's not like I'm like I can think of what I've done, but it's more of like, okay, so yeah, I work in a lot of different games. From where I came up, I kind of had to. So like, if you're not endemic to certain titles, you kind of, I'm endemic to Call of Duty, so like COD is its own ecosystem. But I also started young, so I had the advantage of being like, okay, I need to do other games to build a resume and rep and to vet myself. So Call of Duty, Rocket League, Halo, those are my top 3. I work with Fortnite on occasion. Used to do Gears of War Pro League back when it existed. But yeah, just staying busy is like the big thing. Like, we get it because you and I work in the same game, and we understand, like, especially with doing content stuff, we understand that staying busy is always like the name of the game. But every year I think if you're, and I don't say good as in being retrospective, but good as in proverbial. If you're a good commentator in esports, you're always moving forward, whether it's accomplishments or the games you're doing or what you have planned. So like at the end of every year, I think a lot of us kind of sit here and we're like, oh God, like we did not do as much as we wanted to. Even if we statistically did a lot.
Amen.
We look at it as just like we need to do more because it is the nature of what we do. So yeah, I think at the end of last year, I had a decent year last year, but I was like, wow, there's a lot of things I just didn't do that I want to do.
Yeah. Now it's so funny because it's also on the side of, there's so many routes to go. So working in esports in general, unless you're, again,
nightmare.
Yeah, working even RLCS, then like, because sometimes there's people that just run on as like, you'll just get solo, like, hey, you're just working this day kind of thing.
Sure.
But then, but if you're working, like Riot and stuff, there are some consistent salaries out there.
Yeah.
And most of everybody on the RLCS on consistent yearly contracts as well. But it's like, across esports in general, you're always having to look for the next thing. So even, it's not even just busy of like, hey, I'm a public facing person, I have to do stuff so people don't forget about me. There's that stress, right? That you constantly have to project your life into the world. But then it's also financially, you're like, I have to do stuff or I'm living on the streets. I like, you've been doing it for so many years. Do you still find the struggle of like, and the fear of when's my next job?
every day. Every day. Yeah, dude, it's weekly. Look, I think that there are a lot of people who are, one, not very deserving of the spots they're in, but two, the salaried positions of whether it's RLCS Town or if you're looking kind of big leagues like Overwatch League, Call of Duty League, League of Legends, Valorant, CS:GO, which CS:GO actually I'm not sure because they don't really have franchise stuff, but they have a lot of third party stuff. Anyway, point is the salaried idea that I think a lot of people in the non-esports world think that casters have. Those people are like the top casters are like the 0.1% of the 1%. They're the ones who have salaries throughout the year and usually some benefits that come along with it.
They're the Twitch streamers, like not, we're not making as much as them, but like it's still a very small percentage of people.
They have the small percentage, and that is rightfully deserved and earned. They are usually the ones who have stable income throughout the year because they know where the paycheck's coming. My entire career has been freelance, so not by design, just by like how the business has worked and how the industry is. And same thing like with currently in Rocket League and Call of Duty, though I do work those relatively exclusively, both scheduling wise and just how things have fallen into place. I am still in a position where I'm not fully salaried, so I'm a contractor. So freelance means if you work in esports, you have to be willing to stay on your feet. So yeah, I think there's inherent, I think it's different for everybody. If you're salaried, you probably feel stressed all the time because esports as an industry is going through some stuff. But freelancers in this space, definitely myself included, definitely feel the stress of like, one, where's our next job coming from? Two, are we going to get paid what we want to get paid this year? A little bit like, are we going up or down? And three, like I mean most of us would want to get to a place where we have that salaried security, because that takes a lot of stress off just our day-to-day operations. So yeah, it comes with the territory of being freelance. I think part of being freelance is like 90% of the hard work is like mental and being like, don't freak yourself out, even though it feels like everything's like falling apart. It's like, dude, you just have to like keep going.
Yeah. I mean, you're still going, right? And that's the thing. It's like, sure, you've been in the stress for years, but like it's still going. So like you have to remember that it will, but it's always that
we're here,
that uncertainty, right? Of like, it could be taken away at a point. I mean, especially with the recession coming up, you're seeing just tech companies across everything, pulling back a lot. And I'm wondering if we're going to see esports take that hit as well, because I mean, these are tech companies, right? These are companies that sometimes use esports as a marketing thing. So maybe they'll pull back on that. I actually saw a tweet from you. I don't know if you just tweeted it, but I saw it just before we started recording about you talking about the bubble and
oh yeah, I woke up this morning and rolled over and tweeted that. I was like, that's what's on my mind at 8 a.m.
Okay, good. Well, then let's get it out there, because this is it's interesting, because I think we share similar views on a lot of stuff. In general, I guess let's summarize it quickly before we talk. Is esports in general really only benefits, I guess, the developer because they have a product. But for esports orgs, things are a lot different right now. I mean, they have a lot of capital coming in, but like, what's their product? What's their return on investment? Where is it coming? And people are talking about a bubble. So what are your thoughts on this bubble right now? Are we headed for a burst?
I think we're bursting now.
Okay.
When I started esports in 2012, and I think around like 2016, 17 is when the idea of the bubble, or like the notion of the bubble, started becoming more and more of a conversation, regardless of the sphere or the game. And I think we're starting to see that. And one, it's because of the NXT crash. I think that a lot of, and not me just thinking, but also being told about ventures and TOs and organizers who had put millions of dollars into crypto and it crashed and they're gone. So inherently the risk was there as soon as that thing burst. The other thing is that the bubble exists, but like, it's not this idea of like esports inherently is a very small percentage. Esports is like 1% of a gaming's base. So like when people say esports is so massive, it is to us. But like outside of that, like for instance, my home game, Call of Duty, our esport is like less than 1% of the actual people who play Call of Duty. The actual general population probably has no idea that this exists, which is part of the hurdles of trying to get people to come in and join the brand and be endemic. But esports being so small across essentially everything other than like CS is like the one where it's like, it's just,
you could argue League of Legends maybe as
Yeah,
well.
you really like. I would say like those top two, like League and CS.
And maybe
Dota
that's
as
something.
well.
Maybe that's why they're so big, is because they figured it out. Like
Yeah,
they've known how to breach that.
I mean, you're basically taking like the anomaly of CS, which worked for 20 years, and then you're taking the fact that League of Legends and Riot are backing it. It's like those are the two outliers for sure on this bell curve. But everything else, the bubble was not about esports. It was about maybe the people in it, who's making decisions, where the money's coming from, and what the plan is for return on investment.
Yeah.
Because esports as a whole is bursting right now with people who were making a lot of decisions who maybe shouldn't have been making them. Salaries, and I don't like salaries because it's somehow saying that like the value of the work you're paying people to do is not valuable. I disagree with that. I don't think salaries was the problem. I think that there was a lot of onboarding for a lot of companies, and there was not a lot of deliverables they were giving back. So one of the big problems that esports has right now is not only sponsorships and endemic sponsorships, but getting sponsors who don't just hit a one-time quota and how you get them to return. So I've been looking at the community as a whole for the past like day has been talking about on the timeline how important affiliate programs are for sponsors. So for example, there are teams out there who specific club signups where you can be like tierly members and like you get access to whether it's player interviews, specific merch, ideas and inputs on content, specific watch parties in person. Like there's benefits. The big thing right now is that the esports relies on like kind of one-stop shop sponsors where it's like you give us money, we support your brand, boom, that's the end of the transaction. Esports really needs more affiliate programs where there's incentive for the viewers to pay money both to the organization, to the sponsor, and then over time, the sponsor gets a nice cyclical return of their investment, and then you can hit them with the one-stop shop programs where it's like, hey, we'll give you X million dollars, and you give us our name on your jersey, and then that's the traditional sponsorship that we're used to. So I think there needs to be an overhaul in the way that we deliver packages of whether it's content or actual physical materials to fans, because there was a report that came out that said like the average fan in esports spends about $5.30 over a year on their team. Like you spend $5.30 breathing in an NFL stadium. Like it's not the same. It's not even close. So like, yes, sports and esports are very different. So the bubble's going to be different, but it's coming from inflated prices because COVID changed a lot. We had online competition, which I think showed the value of the numbers, because I think the numbers were correct in COVID. People were interested in esports. But when COVID goes, it hasn't gone away, but when people start acting like COVID's going away, and we're all going outside again, when the numbers start dropping, you have to remember that it scales down. The ratio is there. And I think that a lot of companies forgot that the ratio does apply when everybody starts returning to quote unquote normal life. So it's been but it has been a retracing of the market, of the valuations, etc., for everybody, organizations, TOs, sponsors, endemic brands, non-endemic, people coming in just for hedge funds, people coming in just to throw money at the problem, people coming in thinking they're going to make a quick buck, and people coming in who are endemic or non-endemic thinking they're going to change the system and then realizing it's not the same as traditional sports. It never really has been. So there's all these things that existed in this giant bubble. And I don't mean bubble as in the inherent negative term that we use now. I mean bubble as in esports was growing and it was just building this giant cacophonous void. And all of a sudden, with COVID and the FTX or the NTX trial, whatever the hell that stupid thing is called, which first of all, we told you flat out that crypto was a bad idea when it started, but let's throw millions of dollars at it because what do we know? Yeah. With that and the void and everything that's going on and people in positions who are making decisions who don't really know what they're doing and promising jobs to people that they don't eventually pay off, just all of these things that shouldn't exist, that existed. And then you have, how do we support the ecosystem when we're not selling anything? That's the problem. So you're getting a nice perfect storm of we're popping and we're seeing the results of it, and it's going to get worse before it gets better. So I don't remember what your question was, but what I do know is that is kind of the bubble talk, and that's why it's scary for a lot of us, because I don't think esports is going anywhere. I don't believe it will, and I think it's already proven when it had no money that it was viable. I think that it's gotten money when it needed it, but we didn't give it money the right way. And there's going to have to be an approach or a change of approach for a lot of organizations, TOs, and brands coming in on how to get those deliverables to the public, and also how to get a return on investment that is not just we sold 100 tickets for our land or we sold out in our jerseys and our merch. It has to be more than that. And on a quick tangent, I was talking to Corelli for a very long time. A couple of weeks ago, we were talking about how YouTube TV, without going into detail, how YouTube TV could eventually become one of the biggest players in the esports sphere, and how that could bridge the gap between current endemic Twitch viewers and commercialized TV
just because of
syndication.
their audience base.
Because of the audience, the hub, and how easy it would be to get a syndication right for YouTube TV for major events. Because I think that's where esports needs to go. Without jumping into that rabbit hole, because it's very big, I think esports at some point needs to get into syndication rights and get onto mainstream television. And one of the best ways to do that would be something like YouTube TV, which just exists anyway. But that's the thing. It's like there needs to be a change to the ecosystem that exists, because the underlying ecosystem works, but we're starting to see the effects of all the bad decisions that were made. And that's the bubble. The bubble is, these are the billion things that went wrong. It's like the housing crisis.
Yeah.
Everybody made a bad decision. And when it bursts, you're going to see it all come down until we realize that the baseline here is what.
But it'll bounce back.
Exactly. Yeah, I fully believe it will. Like, we're in a recession now in America. So it's like a lot of the American ventures and capitalists are going under because of the recession we're in.
Yeah.
But the world's also in a recession because of COVID and the fact that everything's inflated. So it's a bad time to be here, but we're not going anywhere. If we can survive this, there's literally nothing that we can't figure out.
Well, here's the thing. First off, that's what I wanted. My question was, what do you think? What's your thoughts on the bubble? So you answered it.
It's here. It's a thing. Yeah, it exists for sure.
I have a lot of follow-ups. First off, so I think we see this problem just in general. I think part of there's a lot of reasons, but for the recession, I actually replied to the thing just before this, so I'll reiterate it. What I said to your tweet was, we see a lot of companies doing what's called blitz scaling. They jump in, they put everything in, and then they figure out how to make a revenue plan afterwards. Like, that's not just get a customer base, get as many people using our product, get our brand ingrained within a community, a society, within a day-to-day operations of a person. When you need to go somewhere, you don't have a car and there's no buses, what's the first word pops your head? Probably Uber, right? Like, oh, I got to get an Uber. They've done that. They still don't make money to this day. All these companies, Twitter, you see it, Facebook, maybe these guys are making it, but like, a lot of these companies are losing money because they went in, let's make a product, let's compete, then we'll figure out how to make money afterwards. And the problem is that if you can't figure out all the investors are like, we don't want to put more money into this, or that money's gone, it's burnt, it's crashed. And esports kind of falls under the same category. I mentioned it with the company themselves that makes the game, the developer. They have a product. It's the game. They can either sell the game, they can sell microtransactions. There's something for them to sell. They can justify advertising on their esport by saying, hey, here's our RLCS. You play the game. Maybe while you're in there, you buy something on the shop because a thing pops up and says, look at this cool Ferrari that just came to the shop. You buy that, right? Because you like that car. So there's something for them to sell. But for esports orgs, what are they selling? What's the product? I mean, it's sponsorships. I guess they can make money that way. And you mentioned affiliate programs. You mentioned sponsors. But my question is there a way to do this? And since no one's figured out yet, don't know if you'll have the answer, but do you have any thoughts on what an actual product could be? I mean, in traditional sports, I talked to Lawler about this on the show earlier, so I'm very curious to see your thoughts. But traditional sports, they have a product. A lot of it's merch, but they can also sell tickets. Tickets is a lot of income. They obviously have sponsorships and advertisements as well. But there's a product. It's physical entertainment people can come to. Esports, you just watch it for free online, right? So you have to sell advertisement. What can esports do that is a product that becomes endemic in itself, is a profitable product that has its an ROI that isn't reliant on other sponsors? Like if right now, if a sponsor pulls out, then they don't have right. Look at Twitch streamers. If all advertisers pull off of the Twitch platform right now, they don't make money, right? They might have contracts just from that, but like, there's no money anymore.
Twitch streamers would lose money. Yeah.
What's their product? What are they selling, right? You'll see some people like Linus Tech Tips, they make their own website. There's their product. They sell entertainment. It's their platform. It's first party money. They're not reliant on a third party to provide them with income.
Yeah.
What does esports do to not rely on third-party income?
I have one answer.
Okay.
It's not a good one. Granted, look. If I
Again,
spent like a month trying to break this down, I might get like a little bit closer, and like I would start asking organizations to hire me because I'm getting paid to help to save them. But my answer is not great. But what I've thought of, kind of, look, I think crypto is dumb inherently. I think NFTs are the stupidest thing that's ever existed. But there's one application of NFTs that would have made sense. So, real quick tangent. Imagine an NFT thing where it's like you get access to a Jay-Z album release party, and then you get a digital certificate of that, and like you can showcase that, and like people come over. It's like, oh look, like you use this as a badge to get in, and then you have a physical representation of like this. Someone sees it, they're like, oh, that means you went to, like, you got into,
and you can verify it. Yes.
Same thing, somewhat, kind of, in a less bad way of NFTs, but in esports. Imagine a way where it's like, look, we can sell a product that either goes directly to our membership program, or goes directly to, that's paid, but goes directly to our fan base who's interested, and they can use it as, whether it's a token to represent something that gives them access to things, because you're not just selling a coin, which is stupid. I'm
just letting you know, I 100% agree with you on this too, by the way.
Yeah, so it's like they need to sell something that leads to something, not just you own part of a digital item that's us. That's stupid. No, there needs to be a transaction that happens. We give this org money, they give us a key or a token or something, and we can use that token for something exclusive with this org. Whether it's merch, whether it's content, etc. There needs to be more of a revenue plan that comes in specifically over content and streaming, because yes, a lot of esports is free, and look, the people much smarter than me have been saying for very long that esports may not be able to sustain the free model of viewership. It needs to go to a paid service. Even if you paid $5 a month for Twitch, I know it would probably isolate a lot of people, but at this day,
the kids that are toxic.
Exactly. Listen, no, like honestly, like when we're talking about like young children who maybe don't have access to obviously that discretionary income, the question now becomes, can you get enough people who already have streaming services, who already have maybe the ability to pay the $5 a month? I think that, like, that's the baseline. I think that as a benchmark, $5 a month on Twitch is not that scary as everybody thinks it is. No. But also, it would also be a lot easier to be like, hey, let's go to YouTube TV, and you pay $12 a month. You get everything that YouTube TV provides, traditional sports, programming, etc. And they have esports packages built in. Boom, you're already in the door, and you have a backlog on YouTube that exists. So I think that when it comes to creating the revenue, it can't just be ticket sales. It can't just be merch. There needs to be stuff endemic to the grassroots side of esports that has existed for a while. Like, look at FGC, right? Like, you sell storylines, you sell personalities. How can you then take that, bottle it, capture it, and sell it to your audience, whether it's exclusive, anything, merch, drops, apparel, signature stuff? Like, you need to market your play. You need to market and unfortunately, I hate this term. You need to treat your players, if you're an org owner, you need to humanely treat your players as capital when it comes to marketing them and showing, like, hey,
their brands, their product.
Yeah, this is a brand we own. Like Team Liquid, we own a brand. Like, a player we own, or we have signed on contract, is a brand. Their own brand is an ability for content, is an ability for using their likeness for certain things, like whether it's like merchandise, etc. Like, you need to use them as their own source of capital, paying them appropriately and treating them like a human being first and foremost. But after that, it's like you need to market them as a thing that you own that you can't get anywhere else, right? Yep. Like, that's kind of how I see esports evolving, where it's like there needs to be more of an incentive from organizations to use the influencers and the creators and the players they have to sell things, because at the end of the day, the majority of esports fans aren't buying anything. Maybe like they'll buy a jersey or something, but what exactly are we buying? Nothing. We're like, we'll buy a ticket to an event that goes directly to the overhead, the TOs running the event, that sometimes goes to the publishers, like maybe the teams if they get lucky. Like, it's just there's nothing here. So they always say influencers are the best marketers, and that's 100% true. That's why, like, Twitch is so successful, because like streamers get more eyeballs than anybody. So if you're a sponsor or a brand and you want to get eyeballs on your product, you go to a streamer, you go to a YouTuber. Same thing with players. Like, if you want eyeballs on your stuff, you got to treat them as influencers, and you got to market their influencer ability and the things they do, even if it's just playing the game really well. You have to find a model that works around them it treats them like their own package of product. And then if you can sell that,
Mhm.
then you have a chance to get people more connected to the grassroots side, more connected and feel like they're a part of something. And then they can care about the player, and then you can sell them whatever you want. But yeah, like humanely and appropriately treat your players, not only like players, not only parts of the community and the family of the organization, but treat them like a vessel of opportunity that you then need to capitalize on. Because like, Steph Curry, he's got shoes. He's like
Mhm.
he's endemic to Golden State, and they use him for marketing promotions, they use him for campaigns, they use him for merchandise, for bobblehead nights, they use him for anything. That's what esports teams need to do more often, because so often it's like we have a star player,
Mhm.
he's on our team, we're happy that we have him on our squad, but we let him do his own content. We have him do some team content here and there, and that's it.
Part of the
That can't sustain it. There has to be more.
part of the problem though, I think you're like you're again. I'm agreeing with you. You're right. I also agree on the NFT thing that NFTs honestly could be used in a good way. The problem is that people view them as investment, and
Yeah,
that's a
exactly.
way to
Like
make money.
there's a way you could use them, but we're not
Yeah.
doing it correctly.
Yeah. But with the problem on the personality side of thing is when it comes to esports specifically. This is why esports, influencer owned esports orgs are doing well,
Mhm.
is because just right away you got the face of the brand is there, right? You don't even really need marketable players at that point. You just
No,
you just
just the
look
people
at
do
look
it
at
themselves.
Charlie and Moist, right? Like
Yeah.
it's like sure you got a couple good on there, but like it you know Joyo's fun, Joyo's great. I love the wave and everything, and he's growing into it. But the problem is across esports, a lot of these kids are a lot shyer, right? They're kids. They haven't grown into it. They will. They'll eventually. I was quiet until I was 18, right? Like I took time to open up and get loud and annoying. They'll get there, but right now they're not. So it's harder to market. I think a lot of those personalities. Not that you have to be loud and obnoxious to be a personality, but you definitely
Yeah.
need to have something unique about you. And some of these pros, there's a few I could. Again, Joyo's one of them. You look across it. You got Squishy Muffins. He's been able to capitalize on his product, what he's got, and he's grown. He talks a lot more now. But you need to be unique. People have to hear from you, have to care about
like,
you. So it's harder
that's the
with those
responsibility
pros.
of the player, but it's also a responsibility of the organizations to not just house the talent, but extract it and use it and
Mm-hmm.
like do things with it. Like Joy on his own is a blockbuster. You go through waiting in line on Ticketmaster if you could to see him play.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a very real possibility for a lot of players. But it's also the responsibility of the orgs they're on to maximize the marketability of their
Mm-hmm.
players, because too often orgs just sit. And it's not an inherent negative because we haven't known anything different. But now is the time to figure out how to change the course, because
Yeah.
it's too often you sit on elite talent, then they go away, and then you're like, well, why am I rooting for the org anymore? If you can prove to me that you can do something with good talent, I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to trust you when that talent leaves and goes somewhere else. I'm going to trust you to make good content. So it just,
Are there
it's a
any
whole thing.
orgs that you would say are doing that okay right now or getting there?
I would say optics in North America is still like near the top, because they were built on personality and content first.
Yeah.
Like optics started that way, and they got lucky that it was like, again, it coalesced between
Mm-hmm.
great content and personalities and revolutionizing gaming content
Mm-hmm.
and vlogs, and then they started winning championships, and then boom 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 boom, boom. So like the cross section's there. I would say optics up there, and then with that, there's a reason everybody's like, oh yeah, follow the optic model when it comes to like doing player content or getting people to like certain players, or whether it's streaming or sort of like they're the kings of it. But when I look at other teams, I mean, FaZe was there for
I
a
was gonna
while.
say
I'm not really
phase,
sure.
maybe.
They've kind of, I mean, recent years they've done some weird
They've
things.
also
So I
done
don't
stuff to ruin that branding. But
exactly. So like, I mean, again, they started originally as like, a sniping clan, and then
Mhm.
content, and just they've changed things. But I think Team Liquid's up there. I'll really I like the collaborate Team Liquid's collaborating with Marvel. I think that's so awesome. I
Mhm.
think that their ability to find non-endemic partners to come in and help is great, because they're a huge organization. You look overseas, Edward Gaming, I think, which is in Asia or China, one of the two, that's like
Okay.
really big in League of Legends. Like they've exploded in the past like year or two. There's a lot of G2, another great example.
Mhm.
Like there are a lot of organizations that have been able to kind of push the envelope a little bit more, but we are still a long ways away from. I think Moist is a unique situation, because
Mhm.
it very much started as creator just wants to start an esports org, and he's got the resources to do it. And it was like, oh yeah, like Moist, like we know who, like when you think of Moist, you think of Charlie. It's like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
like Moist, they're here. and then all of a sudden they hire Ludwig, and you're like, okay, it's now not just an esports org. It feels like more like an umbrella. They can hold esports orgs under it, but it's gone from a traditional org to powerhouses running a company, and you're like, well, it's influencer first and not suit and tie first. Like, if they pull it off, they'll know better than anybody how to reach audiences and how to monetize in certain ways. So they're going to be a really interesting litmus test for what comes next. But I don't know. It's a weird space to be in currently.
Yeah, I even like, even if it is a something that's been done before, I just like the idea again of first party. The reason I asked Lawless, I asked you it again. I'm probably going to ask someone else on the podcast.
Sure.
Get as many different perspectives. Is that I wonder what I want revenue to be controlled first party. Again, as I said, I don't want people to be reliant on outside factors that can change at any given point just because that sponsor, that brand doesn't want to be involved anymore next month, and then everything can come crashing down, and that causes a problem. So I want first party. Recently it was 100 Thieves. Didn't they just released they had like their energy drink as well?
Yeah,
that you were at Esports Awards. That was brilliant, by the way. If you get, I don't know if there's a clip somewhere. If I remember, I'll put it over this. But just you got handed the mic, Esports Awards, and you handled yourself beautifully, man. By the way,
I do. I know how to plug, man. Like if you need a product plugged, I will do it. No problem. It was easy, but like I think we're seeing more organizations kind of branch to that sphere of like, okay, we've already got them with the merch. We've already got them with like maybe like keyboards. 100 Thieves kind of one of the first teams to really do that. At least at that level.
Linus Tech Tips, Screwdriver, right? Like
exactly. Like it's like now, how do we move into the minutia of the esports fandom? Oh, energy drinks. Everybody drinks energy. Like, how do we do that?
Yeah.
How we got keyboards. We got clothing. Like, so yeah. I mean, it's an interesting. We're seeing a lot of big names take big risks in the right way. It's going to take time to figure out if it works or not, but I think now's the time when things are slowing down and when you're in a recession. They tell you to buy during a recession. It's also like be creative and do new things during a recession because you'll figure out quickly if it works or it doesn't. But as long as you're trying it, you have a very good chance of being successful when things start to swing back up.
Yeah.
So, these next 2 years are going to be interesting. To say the least.
As I said, we come from grassroots. And we still love esports. So the people that love esports are not going to go anywhere. We'll do stuff for fun. You might not be making money to live off of, but esports is not going to go anywhere. Again, I started in Smash Bros. Back in 2012 as well. Right?
It won't. I think that's the big worry. And and it's because of us, because we work in esports. So we're stressing. We know esports is going to be fun. We are stressing because it might mean right now that like we lose our salaries and like we lose our jobs, but like and again, that is a normal scared reaction and normal thing to think. And that's a very real stress for us. But at the end of the day, regardless, esports will survive. I honestly think that we were born, and by we being like proverbial, everybody right now, I think we were born like 20 years too early for esports because like I think it's going to be more of like concrete and idealistic of what it needs to be in 20 years. But I look around and I'm like, I wouldn't want any other group of people in history to be dealing with it now than the collective of us. Everybody who works in esports right now who knows what they're doing. We are the best people to figure this out and turn this thing around, because you got the atoms of MLG, you got people at Riot, you got people in CS and League of Legends, you got people at eFuse, you got people in Rocket League and Call of Duty. Like, you have the best minds who have built this industry trying to figure it out in its worst time. If they do it, there's nobody else I would want to be figuring this out. So like, it sucks now, but like in like 10 years, I'm gonna be like, thank God that we had these people figuring it out as we went along, because now we can all move forward.
Yeah, at the high end, I think it's good, because I think not all, but I think most of the scum, or again, the people looking at it as a quick buck, trying to get in, make money, and get out, or lying about what they know. I've seen so many people start an org, get sponsors, and
the people who straight up just don't know what they're doing are hurting the most now. Well, actually, no, let me take that back. The people who don't know what they're doing are definitely feeling the effects, because the proof is not in the pudding anymore. Like, you're getting hit because you didn't have anything concrete. But unfortunately, right now, the people who are feeling it the most are the hard workers and the people who know what they're doing. So like, just look at the guard to yesterday, who
Mm-hmm.
all of them got laid off. Like the really good people who know what they're doing, who know how to do their job and are doing it well,
Mm-hmm.
and they're the ones that bring value to esports. They're the ones feeling the effects, unfortunately. But there's I saw a tweet yesterday that was like, it was like, take all the good people out of esports and they'll still be good elsewhere. Take the bad people out of esports and it'll crumble. Something to that effect. And it was just like, it was
I got the
basically
principle.
reiterating to everybody who just got fired, like, look, your value is still your value, even with all the shitty decisions that just happened.
Mm-hmm.
And esports will only get better once you come back into it when you get another job. So I was like, yeah, that's 100% true, because it's like, it's not a failure of the people and the value of the people. It's a
Mm-hmm.
failure of the models and the people who make the decisions. So it's
Mm-hmm.
just, it's nice to think of that in these horrible times. But yeah, I think that genuinely we're seeing more and more people who have no idea what they are doing, starting to get hit with that reality, whether it's economically or financially or
Mm-hmm.
business model wise. They're like, because there are some times where I'm like, I hear things about meetings or I hear business plans or ideas, and I'm just like, what on God's green earth are you doing with that kind of money in esports and have no idea what you're doing?
Yep.
Like, oh,
Some people,
yeah,
I think some people, when you have enough money, you start to lose touch on reality, probably. Like
I honestly think the more money you have, yeah, I mean, it's always been that way. Like millionaires, the more money you have, like the less you understand kind of the plight of the common man. But
it's not that you
also,
couldn't stay
no,
in
it's
it.
not
It's just
that-
people.
It's just if you pay attention and stop being weird. Just the problem is, man, like I hear the amount of stories in the past week I've heard of like things were going great, and like we weren't getting, like, the sponsors maybe weren't coming in, but even in the recession things were going great, and then they decided to dump millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of investments and dollars into this crypto stuff, and then it crashed. TSM, same situation. I'm like,
Yeah.
what? We told you day one that crypto was a bad idea. We all told you on the timeline for free. We
Yeah.
gave you consultation for free,
For
and we said this is
free.
bad, and then you did it anyway. Like, it's stuff like that where I'm like,
Yeah.
guys, it does not have to be this complicated, but you make it anyway.
Yeah.
So please stop.
Well, is this why you're grinding? Because you've been grinding your YouTube. I mean, before this, it's whenever I look on Discord, your title is just
Writing script.
Writing a script. Yeah. And so I'm just wondering if like are you trying to build? Is this a passion thing? Are you trying to build a bunch of other avenues for yourself? Because you know how tough it is to survive in this environment.
Yeah, it's definitely a passion, like a passion first and survivability second. And it probably should be flipped at this point. But like, it's always been passion first, because I love YouTube. I loved it since I was a kid. I had a variety of channels. I was on a variety of teams making content. And then when I started taking it actually seriously in like the past 2 years, that's where like it's been passion first, because I wanted to build a channel organically and just build something that, one, I was proud of, and two, I'm like, I can just do this and not have to stress myself out. Though it is stressful, it's like I can do this and be like, I can disconnect myself from my normal job in life and just do this, and it's completely unrelated to my work. So that way, if something goes wrong with esports, I don't have to worry about this being affected. But as esports has become more volatile, it's like, okay, I want to double down on what I'm doing now, because this would be great. At the end of the day, yes, I would love to be making money on YouTube. I don't make that much. So it's like, yeah, if it becomes a secondary source of income, fantastic, because that makes me sleep better at night. But at the end of the day, it's passion, but I am very aware that like I want it to become a second thing. So it's like I don't have to stress as much about everything else. But
yeah,
I approach it from passion, because if you approach it from money, you're going to just burn out immediately.
Yeah. So. I want to ask you a question. Because so for anyone that hasn't seen Spaceman's channel, go check it out if you're into cinematography at all, anything to just any video, like what's it called, video essays on film and stuff.
Just thoughts.
You've been doing a great job. I mean, and again, a couple of your videos have popped off with hundreds of thousands of views. Have you hit what's your highest?
I have a one short that's over 1.5, and that was like
1.5 mil.
Yeah, it was one of the first.
Insane.
So I posted it right as shorts came out, and I didn't really realize it, but like I posted it when shorts came out, and it was about 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And like it just did great, and it was before it was monetized, so like I don't get any of that money. So like it was great, go crazy. And then the one video I put out kind of started everything, which was about 2 years ago, middle of the pandemic. It started the new wave of my content, which was like now what it is now. That hit really quickly. And I got monetization after like 600,000, because that basically helped me get my sub goal and my
And
watch
your
time
watch
goal, which
hours,
I
yeah.
could then apply for. So I got monetization around like 600,000 views. The most money I made on YouTube is off of that video. Like everything else, I make basically nothing. So that like video was great. Like I made a couple hundred. I'm like, great, cool.
Nice.
But yeah, that's
Yeah.
the one video that they got over 1 million. It's still going today.
That's
Um,
sick.
but yeah, that's the one benchmark.
So my question was, because I had this problem too. My YouTube channel is under the brand Liefx, which is my Twitter, which is the one that most people know me as for Rocket League. Now the problem I've always been trying to figure out here is how you create a brand that is associated with a variety of content. Because right now, my YouTube channel under Liefx, if you search that up, it's all Star Citizen content. It has nothing to do with Rocket League. I started another channel called Liefx Rocket League that this is going on. But so if people search that, they'll be able to find it. Because if they search Liefx right now, it's wrong. So I always wondered if conflating those brands, like separating them, like having two different products to the same brand name can be problematic. Like if someone says, searches Spaceman Rocket League YouTube, and your video essays pop up, does that hurt your click-through rate now because they're not going to click on that because that's not what they were searching for? Same thing other way, if people go from your YouTube over to your Twitter and say, what is this esports stuff? I don't care anything about this. I want it more about video. Have you ever given any thought to separating the brand, and like how have you navigated that space?
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely thought about like, do I need to change my YouTube name to be something else? Do I need to completely separate it? Though I've thought about it, I haven't done it because one, like for me, at least the way I viewed it, like I was me, whether it's avatar name or whatever. Like I was me even before I was in esports. Like I was gaming. I love gaming content, all that. Like that was me before anything, and like during esports. So like the name Spaceman doesn't mean much, just because like I'm me. I'm inherently me. But like it was just easy because I'm like it's easier to do a name on YouTube where it's maybe generic and you can kind of have that as a self-contained brand. But for me, it was like this. Because I'm not doing like endemic content specifically on esports, I didn't feel the pressure to change it necessarily, because I'm like, I can just be Spaceman on YouTube. I could be a completely different thing. I could be a whole different identity. That's just like, there's this guy who's, I mean, because I talk about video games on my channel rarely, but like I do game content, I do video essays. So it's like, there's this guy who just does this stuff. And like, that is just, it felt just like a natural progression of just like, this is my brand. My brand as Spaceman is much bigger than my YouTube brand because I'm a commentator and stuff. So like, I'm just carrying my brand to the next step. And the benefit is that everybody who's basically seen my YouTube has no idea that I do esports. So like I'll get comments every now and then where it's like someone from esports comes to watch the video and they're like, oh, I didn't know you did content. But 99% of the comments are like, you know, they have no idea what I do.
Yeah.
You'll get like one where it's like, you know, it's like, oh my God, I didn't know you did esports. But like, and that, I like it that way because again, I don't want the two to be connected to one another.
Well, same, but that's why I wondered about separating the brands.
Right. I think it inherently depends on how you see your brand and honestly if you want to separate it or not, because I think there are benefits to both. I think there are benefits to separating your name from your normal job and then like having a brand on YouTube. I think that absolutely helps. But what I figured was as well is like, if I continue to grow in my career, I want that cross-pollination to somewhat exist. I want the ability for people to be like, Spaceman exists in esports and he also has a YouTube channel that is just like it's a continuation of him. I didn't want it to be like, you know, what's this random channel name? Again, like it's not a great explanation, because for a lot of people they're like, no, I want the separation, I want the different brands, so that way there is no linking and you can have maybe an easier time marketing a YouTube brand that has nothing to do with you, that you could use against the algorithm. But for me, it was just like, I already have somewhat of a following in esports. If I make a YouTube channel with just my name and I just do what I want, if the following grows in esports, it might translate also to growing more on YouTube. And I'm not too worried about if people know that I do YouTube or not. So I honestly think my answer is, it essentially just comes down to how you view it. Like if you view it as a positive for having everything be the same, then it's a positive for you. If you see it as a negative in some ways, then definitely consider having a change, or like being like, I want to maybe do a central channel where I want to build one channel up and then I'll disseminate that into other things. But for me, it was just like, I'll just continue because my brand is Spaceman. I'll just continue that. I'll just continue what I already use anyway. and I'll make it as different as possible, so that way it's at least diversified to some extent.
Yeah,
Um,
I struggled because I even see large YouTubers do this too, where they separate their channels for specific, even under the same brand. It'll be, it'll be Spaceman 2, Spaceman Alt, right? And
yeah,
so that they can do gaming content or something. And it's like, even with the same brand, they feel it necessary to separate the spaces. Like Twitter is its own space. This YouTube channel is its own space. This channel is its own space. And it's so hard when content is dictated by an algorithm because then the second you get a video where it's like, hey, I wasn't expecting this, your CTR goes down, and then all of a sudden you're not getting the watch time. People aren't staying on your channel, and as a whole thing. So I started separating. I have like 4 or 5 channels now.
I have a second channel. It's just called Spaceman TV. That's like was supposed to be for gaming stuff that I haven't done anything with it yet. But it's like, I like that. That is kind of like my dissemination. It's like everything that I do on YouTube essentially stays there. I only use Twitter. I only cross them to Twitter when I'm either posting the new videos live, or I'm talking about metrics and asking for advice. Most of the time, all the thoughts I have on Twitter stay on Twitter, whether it's esports related, gaming related, or movie related, whatever. It's like everything just stays on Twitter. They don't really cross paths unless I'm marketing something. I don't market on YouTube like, hey, I have a Twitter. Go, like I just said, I have links in the description if you want to check out my social media. On Twitter, it's just like, hey, my new video is live this week. Thanks for watching. That's it. So like, if people come from YouTube and they expect it, I'm not gonna, like, a lot of, I've seen this in like people like Cosmonaut Variety Hour, Summoning Salt. A lot of big accounts have like a Twitter dedicated to them and Twitter dedicated to their brand. So like their brand will have thousands that they only post their videos on. They're like, hey, new videos up, hey, new videos up, etc. And then their personal account will just be them. For me, it was just like, because they are so disconnected that like, I'm just going to post that a new video is live and I'm going to go about my day with the rest of my esports content. And then on YouTube, it's nothing but the content, and that's it. Like, it's just, for me, that works.
Yeah, that Twitter thing though is kind of the same thing as making a new channel, and I always hated the idea of separating all of these things that I do into so many different channels. But it again, with these content algorithms, it feels like it's almost necessary at this point. A YouTuber in the Star Citizen community I watch, Space Tomato, he did the same thing. He's got his personal account that is still branded with his Space Tomato stuff, but he made a separate one that is
like
just
strictly for content and only
for Star
YouTube
Citizen stuff.
Yeah,
just Star Citizen. Whereas his other one, he'll post about him, living in Turkey now or whatever. And
like that makes sense. And if my channel, it's tough when your channel is the same thing that you are. Like, it's like Spaceman can't make another Twitter because that's me. But like, if my channel ever got to the point where it was big enough to be self-sustaining and like that has its own community, then I would probably make a Twitter around the channel where it's just like, hey, here's all the updates of the videos, everything. Like, that makes sense. But for the time being, where I'm like, the channel's just me. It's just very much me. It's not like a brand yet. Like on Twitter, I have a brand because it's esports and it's like commentary. But like on YouTube, there's really no brand yet. It's just me. It's just a guy. So I don't feel the need yet to break them apart and like move them.
My problem is that, so I made, obviously on my Star Citizen Liefx channel, I have this Liefx Rocket League channel, which I kind of actually want to eventually change the name of, because I mean, my goal is I again, if you'd like to hear it and you're still listening along at this point, comment below if there's people outside of Rocket League you'd like to hear from as well. I just want to talk to people. It doesn't necessarily have to be Rocket League, and I feel Rocket League was just there as an SEO thing, just to make sure that people can find the channel. But I eventually want to do anything, and you can change the names, thankfully. But and then I got another one called GFFB, where I'm posting just a variety of gaming content on, and it's been nice because I can just do whatever away from the Liefx brand. And my problem is that I think the Liefx brand is actually just terrible search engine optimized. Like, I just don't.
I don't think. No,
people think my name is Liefx or Liefx.
Like Spaceman. When you look Spaceman, it's like random pop songs from the '80s or something, and then like it's just like my name isn't inherent. Like, that's the thing. Like I've thought about this, but really haven't. So you're seeing the results of me thinking in real time. My name is not a good thing. Like, having Spaceman as a channel is like probably a good thing, because it's not like a brand that, like, it's not something that you can like remember as like a central hub for things. Like when I think of Captain Midnight or Cosmonaut Variety Hour, when I think of Skill Up, it's like I know what I'm getting. Like I think of Skill Up, I'm like, oh, like reviews and like the quality and this, like there's an idea of like a brand and a theme and a thing that you're going there for. Whereas for me, it's like, that's just my name. So like, yeah, it's probably hurting me in the long run that I haven't like identified. But the problem is that I like things. I don't just want to do like if I do like the Star Wars channel or something, like I don't just do Star Wars. I do Marvel and I do DC and I do Star Wars, and I like talking about video games and random things that are interesting. Oh, I love Interstellar and like Oppenheimer's coming out. What if I want to talk about that? Like, I don't want to confine myself where it's like I can't talk about what I want to talk about. So that's why I made it after me, because I'm like, dude, I just want to talk about what the fuck I want to talk about. I like it, so I want to talk about it. So it's just like, it's tough. It's tough because I don't know if I have exactly like what I want to do. So yeah, I don't know, dude. It's just, I'm just figuring it out.
Well, I think you're in a good position because you've got the category of, again, cinema, right? Like right, at least for now. Like that's, it's just I do think it'd be problematic if you came out with a video, say each of your videos are pumping out 100,000 views every single time. You come, it will get there. That's why I'm saying that.
My God,
so think forward to this point. Is like, but then you put out a video about, you just really had something to say about this esports team or event. It's like, you're probably not going to get, at that point, I feel like you almost can't post that on that channel.
Yeah, you can't. I mean, it's going to tank. You'll probably get like 30K views, but like, again, it's 30,000, but like, yeah, that's, and the big thing is that I'm surrounded by esports all the time in general. And I also am aware that there is not a single piece of esports content that I can make that somebody else either can't make or hasn't done better.
Rocket League.
Exactly. So I'm like, dude, I know for a fact, but without question, there are better storytellers in esports who can do this way better than I can. So why am I going to limit myself when, there are passions outside of esports that I think about all the time where I'm like, I should be doing that. So it's like, yeah, I don't see myself at the moment ever making like a piece of content around like a specific esports thing, because it's like, that just is inherently completely opposite of what my channel's about. So, and it's just the audience. I mean, like, nobody would, honest to God, why the fuck would anybody come to my channel to listen to me talk about something esports related when there are other sources out there? Like, it's just, no.
Sometimes you underestimate how much people want to hear about something from a specific person, though.
I don't want to hear it.
Well, like, sure.
Listen, I'm still trying to fight through and as a young YouTuber, I'm still trying to earn the validation and the respect as an opinion in the Marvel and Star Wars stratosphere, because there are channels bigger than me, who have been doing this longer, who obviously are like, whether it's vetted or trusted by the communities or whatever, like their opinions more.
It's so hard to make it feel like your opinion means something.
Exactly. So it's like, I'm still fighting that uphill battle in that community, and I'm closer to that than I am to getting to an situation with esports where like people are going to listen to me and care what I have to say. So it's like, I think that my content that I make in those universes is far more interesting than the content I would make about esports. And I'm still fighting the uphill battle of trying to get validation there. So how the fuck am I going to make esports content when like I don't even think I have anything interesting to say about it, unfortunately? So it's just, it's like, it's perspective, it's just. Again,
I disagree. That's why I have you on the podcast right now. I think you have lots to contribute. I mean, on that, I just to hear, let's just do a feels good segment here for Spaceman. No, I genuinely look up to it. I see a lot of comments about your commentary, and I actually, when you commentate, I listen because first off, even as a spectator, it's hilarious half the time, and obviously you don't want to get tied into just being someone that can. You're only on because you're funny or something. Your calls are great. Your voice is great, but I think that's obviously just it's something you can't control as much. A little bit, yeah.
It's literally. I mean, honest to God, most of it's practice.
Yeah, my first when I first started doing any YouTube and stuff, my whole thing was copy Chris Puckett.
When I started commentary, the first thing I tried to do was be Puckett.
Yep, yeah, that was it. And then eventually,
that's okay. That's a good thing to do because he's good. So like do that. But you figure out your rhythm.
Yeah, but then anyway, so I when I listen though, I also listen from a colleague standpoint of like I can learn a lot from this guy. I don't know. There's something about your quick wit is always good. I talked to Stumpy about his because he's also a witty person.
He's insane.
Yeah. And just. He's
also British, so like that.
They have an inherent cheat code of sounding killer.
Yeah, exactly.
But there's I I know being able to be that sharp and witty all the time is, in my opinion, exhausting, because I think just inherently I'm less witty, right? Or do you find yourself struggling sometimes to come up with something witty and you're like, I have to say something funny here?
No, I think that like, I think it depends on the game too, but I think that a lot of times there is pressure to like, to not be as cookie cutter and to do things. And I felt that pressure very quickly when I came into Rocket League, which was like the first thing I tried to do. The first thing I did, which was the right approach, was like, I want to establish that I can understand the game and take the commentary that I do anyway and translate it to Rocket League, which I did.
Yeah.
And I was like, that was the first step. But then it was like, how do I differentiate myself? Because, you know, and we're on the same team, but I'm competing with everybody. We're all competing to be the best of ourselves and to get the best product. But also, like, we're trying to hold on to a job. And like, you don't want to sound like anybody else, because like, if they're better than you, then you're not going to have the job. So like, I have to compete with the wit of Stumpy. I have to compete with the cadence of Jorby. I have to compete with the on the feet thinking and the throws of Caleb. Like, I have to compete with the analysis of James and Corelli. I have to compete with the charisma of Turtle. Like, there's things that inherently, you know, you're like, okay, like there has to be more than just this polished cookie cutter base. So the big challenge for me was trying to figure out, like, how much do I push the envelope? How weird do I get? And I think that during RLCS, specifically with the grid and like a little bit further, I pushed it as far as I could. And I went a little too far, not in a bad way, but just like I went a little too far where it's like, okay, this is the outlier. I am not going past this. I shouldn't go this far. So let me see if I can dial it back to a nice range where it's both professional, but there's room for interesting shit to happen.
Yeah.
But it's not unprofessional. So like it took a while.
I saw that. I saw that flow.
It took a long time to figure out what that would be. I'm still not great at it. Like, I'm still figuring it out. Like, there's pressure in cast to say something funny. Like, a lot of the jokes that we think of or that commentators think of, like, they're not good for broadcast, because you're like, you want to say something, like if somebody makes a funny joke or like a pun, you're like, that's dirty. You want to make it like, that's what she said. Like, you can't do that. Right. So like, it's
PG
especially when you're
caricatures
talking,
of ourselves.
exactly. You have to stay professional. So it's like, how do you walk the line? How do you give innuendos in the right way? But also just, I think there are times where like my brain's just tired. I'm like, I don't have it in me to like try to make this a joke. So you just roll. I think the best commentators are the ones who start as a baseline of like, the best ones are the ones who start professional and very by the book. You know what you're going to get, and they work on that as the craft, and then they can interject the personalities, like the witty shit that just comes over time.
I feel like that's how my journey had to go. Is like at the beginning. I mean, here's the thing: we got thrown into this, no practice, right? Like I was doing this for fun with Lawler back in the day, and then someone recommended my name, and we got pulled in, and that I mean, the most experience I had was like, I felt bad because Golden Boy called us up and like, hey, do you have any experience doing this? And I'm like, I've done stuff on YouTube, and I did a top 10 plays thing with like Fox Sportsnet or whatever. And I think it got misconstrued that he thought I had been on a Fox broadcast before, right? Because he sounded, he's like, oh, that's great. That's great. And I'm like, okay, well, and then when we get there, I definitely felt green. I felt like I didn't know anything about this world and what went into a production. I was blown away by how many moving pieces have to come together to create such a cohesive product. At home, you're looking at a camera pointed at two guys talking about car soccer, right? But all the stuff being said in their ears, the admins trying to get everyone ordered, the director looking for the next shot, trying to get player cam, all this stuff.
And we have internal clocks of like, we know what's coming, like we know what we have to say
what
now.
What pieces
and
should come,
and we know the pieces coming and like how we're structuring what we're going to say and then how quickly we have to get a game. So like, it's not just guys talking until they're told to go. 90% of the workload is the production behind the scenes that exists, but it's also like casters have an internal clock of like, we know when things are coming, how they're going to be thrown at us, and then like we have a time frame of what we're working with for what we can say and when we need to get in the game and how we transition everything. Like it's all this stuff that you don't think about. It's like it's just natural for us.
So early on, with all that going on, I'm like, I have no time. Also, I was scared that if I don't do a good job, I'm gonna get fired, right? And so early on, I'm like, I just need to get better at casting. Like, I just need to make sure that my voice sounds better. Let me work on my my flow, my inflection, everything I'm saying. Let me work on that stuff. And then afterwards, I think we only started breaking out of our shell maybe in season 7. Most of us were still pretty tight. Just let's make a clean broadcast and get out there, because it was hard. Again, we were afraid with the PG rated broadcast, how are we supposed to get personality out there if some of our personality lays on a side of having that freedom to make a dirtier quip or whatever. And early on, I remember for one point, I'm like, I'm gonna let my personality shine a little bit. And one time I was just getting excited, and I think I was just like quick air drum or whatever. And I got called afterwards by the person running the broadcast, like, what are you doing? Are you trying to do something just to get attention? I'm like, no, I was excited. I need to get the energy out. Right. And that made me more afraid of doing stuff. I'm like, that's just who I am. I've been hiding who I am this whole time. And now I think we've gotten to the point, but the long story short, to agree with you, I started with the foundation of it, and now you're seeing us interject. And in my opinion, the broadcasts have gotten a lot better. And this is why I'm look to people like you and Stumpy as inspirations of how can I continue to hone the wit, the comedic moments, and where is that line? I've been watching you push the boundaries. Like, okay, he found the line for me. Don't go past that. So I know
I found the line for a lot of people. I think I was like Christopher Columbus out there. So,
you were just exploring uncharted waters.
Yeah,
fell off the side of the world
without the insane genocide of people. I think I was just out there figuring out new places existed. So, it's I think that, again, I think as a commentator, it's a good place to be where you'd rather start with a foundation rather than being personality first. Because again, there's nothing wrong with being personality first and then fundamentals second. There's absolutely nothing wrong. And we see that kind of like with influencer casters or people who got like brought in for a special segment. It's like, I've always been a big fan of those who can be maybe fundamentals of commentary first and then personality second, because the personality just gets interjected naturally. That comes naturally. And then when things break down, you can rely on the fundamentals, versus if your personality maybe or showmanship first and then fundamentals second. If the showmanship either doesn't work or you need to get in a section where you need to be fundamentals and you don't really have that, that's when things break down. So it's always been, regardless of the situation, regardless of the game, fundamentals always. And then when you're comfortable enough with the fundamentals, slowly bring the personality or whatever.
I think that's a good point, because sometimes you'll see a personality brought on that in their own environment can thrive, right? But when they're put into an environment that has so many moving pieces, it can very quickly be overwhelming to the point that they can get lost in a product. They don't realize that they don't have time to make that joke right now, and the host is trying to shut them up because they need to move to another segment. And now you get this awkward moment of this person feeling like they're being shut down for trying to be funny. And then they start to close in. And all of a sudden, I've seen it so many times where a great personality has been put onto a death segment and they shut down because there's too many pieces that they aren't comfortable with. And it's an environment that is outside their realm of knowledge. So having the fundamentals would allow them to thrive in that environment.
And like, look, at the end of the day, fundamentals will never clash. Like you might think as a commentator, you might think like, oh, this person does something that maybe like their commentary style wise, maybe I don't gel with as much, but at least they're doing the commentary. If you have if you're personality forward, again, we're not saying like don't be personality forward. Like we want you to be able to work in a team environment, be a good person, all that stuff. But it's like you might have a situation where if you're working in a team environment, maybe for the first time, what if you have a situation where your personality doesn't mesh maybe specifically with everybody else's? Maybe everybody has kind of a different, unique style, personality-wise, and yours doesn't hit the same note. That's where it maybe gets awkward. Whereas if your fundamentals first, which I think all of us on RLCS are very good about, that is that we know when we need to be professional always. And when we are fundamentals first, those don't clash, because if our personalities maybe aren't, if we're working with somebody new, we don't know their rhythms or the cadences yet, or their small intangibles about them. If I don't have chemistry with someone, at least I know we can hit the fundamentals in our cast. At least I know we will be on point with what we're doing. And then over time, we can be more comfortable and figure out our personality. So like when I started working with Achieves and Turtle, for like me and Subi, when we first did Rival Series, we clicked. Like personality wise, we clicked immediately, and it was great because I'm like, holy shit, our chemistry's great.
Yeah, you're not always gonna get that.
Exactly. Like that is rare. So like when I worked with Turtle and Achieves, I was friends with them before we worked together, and I love both those guys, and they are both phenomenal commentators. And so the first time we worked together, there you go.
There he is.
He's so cute.
Just drinking his mug.
The first time we worked together, because me and Subi and Stacks have a very different dynamic. I've worked with Subi, Stacks, Daz, Jorby, even up until, and we've all 100% good. First time I worked with Turtle and Cheese on LAN was at Worlds, and I wanted to work with them because I liked their styles and I liked their fundamentals. But you never know what's going to be like until you get the headset on when you're there. So when I got the headset on, it wasn't like, oh my god, our styles don't work. It was like, okay, I want to get them comfortable, because I know like Turtle's very reserved sometimes. Achieves, you kind of have to work him up a little bit. So like I was like, okay, it's not immediate lightning in a bottle like it is with Subi, and it's not them. It's like, it's always a new environment. It's like putting a fish in a new pond. It's like they have to acclimate themselves. So that was very much the situation there. And then once I figured out how to get to them, once I figured out how to bridge that gap and like get them to feel comfortable, and then I felt comfortable, all of a sudden, boom, we're good. And like our commentary was great. The fundamentals were there. We did our jobs and we had fun doing it because the personalities came through. But that's the thing. It's like we had to rely on the fundamentals first. And then when we felt comfortable, boom. So that's why any esport, I always stress, especially for new talent, I'm like, work on the fundamentals, because when you think it might go well, and it always usually does, when you think it's going to go well, but you get in a situation where like, it's not going well immediately, what's the problem? There is no problem. You got to get to the fundamentals and do the job. And then when you feel comfortable with the person, boom, everything else opens up. So it takes time, but you know,
it's funny because you're not going to look at yourself this way, but I find so sometimes with comedy or wit, it's like it's good because it to bring out right away, because it can open people up and make them feel more comfortable. When I started Spaceman, I try to start with some sort of small jab at one of the guys on the desk. I'll get another guy on my side, and you create that banter environment, right? Like you immediately create some sort of friendly, I guess, division to cut
the ice. It gets everybody kind of like loose.
But I also wonder if you have ever thought about this, is that I know for myself, and again, this could just be my own perspective on it and how I've built things, but to cast with you, I could find very intimidating, because I think that's a thing of me thinking, oh, well, he's better than me at this. So I then think this is intimidating, and could that shut me down? Because of maybe the wit right off the bat, like, oh, I got to keep up with this. Woo, here we go. But I find that invigorating now. Again, with Cole and Stumpy the other day, doing that day one, they kept me on my toes, and that was fun. And I like trying now. Even though I know I'm not as quick as them, it was fun. Do you ever feel like you people could see you as intimidating? I'm sure you don't see like, again, I think it's something in my, not in a bad intimidating, like in a respectful intimidating.
No, I understand, because I feel that way about others. I think is it possible? Absolutely. I think there are people who, whether they've never met me or like they know my commentary, but they've never worked with me, everybody feels intimidated in a good way by someone. So like, I think there's probably are people who've looked at me and be like, oh, like that would be intimidating to do it. But like, one of the things I always do when I get on cast, especially when somebody I've never worked with before or they're new, like when I was with Turtle, it was our first time working together, but I knew his style. I knew what he likes to do, and I knew that he wanted to do more stuff. So when we got up there, the first thing I said to him was, I said, okay, here's the game plan. I'm going to do my thing, but I'm going to give you all the room in the world and all the airtime for you to do the play-by-play that I know you want to do. Because he wanted to do more play-by-play when we were at Worlds. And he does analysis always. So I said, look, I'm going to be a neutral magnet for you. I'm not going to jump in on you. I'm not going to do anything. I'm going to set you up for stuff because I want you to do your analysis because I think you're good at it. But I'm flexible, and I'm going to give you positions to do play-by-play because I know you want to do that. So I go in every cast I do, whether it's with somebody new or somebody I know, I go in trying to help the other person in a way where it's like, I want them to do their job. Like when I'm with Jorby, we do the same job. We're both play-by-play. But when I'm with Jorby, I go in and he knows I'm like, and he does it to me. Like he gives me space to do what I need to do. I give him space. So it's like, I always go into a cast and I'm like, I'm going to let you be the most comfortable here, because then I get the best out of you, and then it makes us natural, and then I get to do what I do. So like I've worked with people that, like, I worked with Golden Boy, I've casted with Puckett, I've casted with Jorby. Like there are people I've casted with where I've just been intimidated and be like, oh shit, like
how do I keep up with this?
I crawl back in and I'm like, I get reserved, but I do fundamental only. I don't do a lot of personality. I do my job because I want to prove to them that I'm doing my job. And then over time, if we become more like better acquainted on the air together, then my personality comes out. That was kind of the first way I was with Jorby, because he's like in my opinion, like one of the best play-by-plays in esports. Like I was like, oh shit, like I don't want to. I don't want to do my thing because it's like when somebody is above you that way,
You don't want
like
to take
when
away from it,
in terms of the
or
rankings, not only that, but like when somebody's in the rankings like above me, it's like, okay, he's a better commentator than me and he's higher up on the totem pole than I am. I know that. So when I go in, it's like I'm showing them respect by being like, I appreciate you being here with me on this cast. I want you to do your thing and I'll do my thing. Don't worry about me, but I'm not going to jump in. I'm not trying to hog the spotlight. I'm not
yeah,
trying to hog the mic. I'm going to do my job following you. You're going to like, I'll take the lead on some things, but like, you do your job the way you've always done it. And I will do mine and I'll back you up. So like, that's how I've approached a lot of commentary. It's just, even with someone who's new, I want them to feel like they are in control and they're comfortable because I know that I can do my job sufficient enough to back them up. And that way, when they feel comfortable, all of a sudden we're starting to mesh and mix together and shit. So yeah, I think that it's entirely possible to feel intimidated by me. I don't see it because I'm like, dude, I'm just here.
I think it comes from a level of respect when the intimidation
you have to
comes
respect
from
the craft.
Yeah. Well, I think it's just like if someone is intimidated of you or you feel intimidated, it's probably because you respect what they do.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Like when I was working with Puckett, I was shitting myself because I'm like, this is Puckett.
I would
like,
be
you know,
too. That's the guy that started me.
We had a great cast together. It was great. But
that's awesome.
yeah, it was like, he was like, how you want to do this? I'm like, brother,
How do
just
you
go.
want to do this?
I was like, you go and I will follow you and we will crush this. Like, don't worry about it. Like, that's the thing. It's a level of respect always. It's just because like, you know, they bring a level of quality and professionalism and polish. You're like, I have to match now. So it's stressful, man. But
it's a good mentality to have though, because again, one of my goals with desk hosting is, I mean, I love that we did improv. I wish we could do more improv games with the casters because it's super fun. But I learned that our job is to continue. There are two fundamentals I took away from improv. It was yes and always take what someone has said, affirm it, even if you disagree, and then add to it, right? Never. Yeah. There are very few times you can say no, but, and you generally have to be pretty well trained to know when those moments are. But generally, yes and is a good thing. The second one to that is your job is to work with that person to create entertainment, and you create entertainment by supporting each other and getting the best out of each other. And this is why, like, again, I know what kind of jokes certain commentators like or don't like, or what styles they prefer. How do we want to cast today? And exactly what you said is like doing that, setting them up for success will overall just make a better product. They'll feel better about themselves because they got to do the thing they wanted to. I think that's the sign of a good commentator, which I think everyone in the RLCS does fantastically. Is we all know, we can very quickly figure out when something isn't working and adjust it without even saying anything to each other
in real time.
Yeah. And it just like, oh, this person said this certain way. I know that we need to adjust this or something. Yeah. And it's really interesting seeing that flow and watching other commentators and be like, I know what they just did there. They just did a switcheroo or something like that. It's really interesting to, when you know what's going on, to see that support for each other. And people have said when I commentate with, newer casters, there's a lot of talented people already in the bubble scene for casters, but like even ones that are a little more green, a little less rehearsed, they'll pop in and they'll get scared. They'll get intimidated. And by the end of it, they're like, whoa, man, that felt great. And it's because, I have the experience of being able to let them do what they want to do. It's what you just said. And it's really fun. It's rewarding to be able to flow with someone. Yeah.
And I always say, one, I don't want to be the smartest person in the room. I always like listening more than I like talking.
That's why I started this.
I think, and because you learn just osmosis, you learn through the information. But I never like being the better commentator in the pair because when I'm challenged to be better, I work better. I do better. So like when I'm working with commentators who are better than me, I do better work, and it's making me learn on the spot. So when I've worked with Jazz and Stacks and Subi and Achieves and Turtle and Corelli, the only people and Stumpy, the only people I haven't casted with Inkle, I think I haven't casted with James yet. And
Gibbs, but that's not common thing.
I was gonna say I think like James is like the only person in terms of like.
Did you say Subi? You did say Subi.
Yeah, Subi. Yeah, I think he's like the only one. But like everybody in the RLCS, I haven't casted with Shogun or Johnny. But everybody in the RLCS, I firmly believe, what from everybody from the host, the commentators, the analysts, everybody. I firmly believe that everybody is better, whether it's commentary or hosting or talking about the game inherently, than I am. Like I know there's a long way I have to go with Rocket League in terms of like learning more about the game, just stuff. So I am glad that I feel that way because I'm always learning, but also when I'm paired with someone, every single cast, I'm like, I am working with someone who's better than me, both at their job and the game, and it's pushing me to try to be better, right? Like, so I'm grateful that exists because like when I work with Jorby and Turtle, and Achieves, those are kind of like the three right now that I'm kind of working with. When I work with them, it's like I'm learning play-by-play stuff from Jorby. I'm learning analysis and game charisma from Turtle, who has a really who's shout out to him, by the way, who's just like he has excelled in his job in the past like year or so, like in terms of just getting better and better. And Achieves, who's just the mastermind of analysis and cadence. Like I'm learning when I'm with him, and I know that I'm influencing him in some ways. Like I'm getting him to be a little more comfortable, but he has a very specific style that I can try to mend to. So yeah, it's about being flexible and like knowing how to like kind of mold your style to who you're working with. Because like my style that works with Turtle might not work with the Cheese. My style that works with the Cheese might not work with Jorby. So it's like I always appreciate that everybody is so good. Rocket League's very unique because Rocket League talent, it's you either get burned by the blitz or you live by the blitz or die by the blitz. You either live by the endemic side or you die by the endemic side. Rocket League talent are so endemic. Some of them are so endemic to Rocket League that not only were they just forced to get really good at knowing the game, but the amount of reps we had, especially during RLCS X, like the Rocket League talent have transcended from just good endemic talent to good talent overall. And I think that's a very important ceiling that a lot of us have hit, is that like, especially in the landscape of esports, where you have to be able to maybe be flexible, Rocket League talent have become very good commentators, not just Rocket League talent. And that is a good thing. Like that's very important. So it's been cool. Like Rock is a very unique situation with talent, which is really nice.
It's cool because we've talked about this before. I actually wanted to talk about this with Wavepunk on his episode, but his internet died halfway through. So hopefully
I was watching until that point happened. So
hopefully we'll get the hopefully we'll get the second half of that with him another time. I'm trying to get as many new fresh faces on as possible, but also appreciate you listening to it.
Yeah, I like I did Lawler then Wave, and then I was going to do CJC.
That's awesome. And so yeah, so I was saying is what's great is that it's a healthy competition that we have, where we all want to be, obviously not me on the desk now, but we all want to be the ones casting the grand finals, right? We want to do that. Of course we do. It's such an incredible moment to be involved in something so special, but we also think every single person around us deserves to be casting those grand finals.
Yeah.
Because I'm
scared of that. I am not ready. Like no, I want everybody else to be doing it because I am not there yet. But yeah, I 100% agree with you. It's like you want, because of how good everybody is, you're like, no, they should be doing it. Like,
yeah, and it drives us. It's a healthy competition of respecting and honestly believing that the other people, again, it's not even belief, honestly knowing that those other people belong in the position that they're in, but also wanting to still be better than them. And because of that, we've continuously grown over the years. I mean, the amount of like, when we were growing, the amount of times we would sit in the green room together and go around in a circle, we have postmortem and say, all right, this is what I think I did great today, guys. This is what I think I did bad today and want to work on. Everyone would do that. And then we go around and have advice for each other. So that way you're not saying something someone already knows, right? Like, you did good there, or you did that bad. I'm not going to bring that up. You could talk about something else. And then we helped each other grow. And that was, it was, I think, first off, a bonding moment. It allowed us to be open with each other. And then secondly, it allowed us to grow. And that's something that is so, like, if you look at CSGO, like, that's not normal. that is you just eat each other alive kind of world.
I mean, like, it's, again, like, FPSs are inherently a different beast, but the one positive, and I don't say that as in like there are no positives, but I mean like the number one positive that I look at with Rocket League talent is that it very much feels like a brotherhood. Like it doesn't, like we push each other to be better. We are all competitive, so we're always trying to get better and do more. But like it never feels like we're trying to eat each other or do anything to get over anybody else. Like the number one thing that stands out about Rocket League talent versus maybe any other scene that I've seen is just like it's everybody is in the same room trying to accomplish the same goal at all times.
Yeah.
And they're all so good they don't realize it, but they all feel like they're all so good, yet they all think they're all not that good.
Yeah.
Like everybody legitimately thinks they're still like in season 1 and 2 form.
Massive
when they're
imposter
really
syndrome.
yes, and they're really like up here, but like there is not a single ego that exists in the Rocket League talent sphere. There's not a single ego that
Except
exists.
Stacks. No, I'm kidding.
Stacks is an
If he watches
absolute
this.
freak of nature. Please, like he is. Yeah, no, but like, dude, like that's the thing. Like, it's just at the end of the day, there is not a single person.
Yeah.
That you're like, you know, like if anybody got interjected into Rocket League for the first time, I was one of those people. I never felt like I was. You know, there are times where I don't feel like I belong, and it's not anybody's fault. It's like, you know, my relationship with the game, my still feeling I need to prove myself, but the talent have always felt like these are just the guys. These are the people who do the game, and it's just the most approachable atmosphere, which is a good thing. So, yeah, you know, it's different, it's unique.
Yeah, and the fact that everyone, I mean, there's times people are just playing games together outside of RLCS. When we're in the green room chatting and hanging out, we're just talking about anything. The amount of crazy deep conversations that we have in there, from, you know, what is evil inherent to the universe, and then we go through philosophy.
We go through like, hey, should I text this girl what I think? No, don't say that, say this, to like, was quantum physics and why does it matter? Like, we go through the spectrum, dude. It's bad.
It is all over the place.
Yeah, that's good. That's the brotherhood you kind of want.
I gotta say though, the air is good about your commentary, and everyone enjoys your commentary and thinks you deserve to be on the broadcast too. So at least it's always good to at least acknowledge your growth, but then get back to saying I need to get better. I think that's.
I mean, 100%. Like, I think the tough thing is, I think it's. I don't know if it's a byproduct of. Again, I appreciate that. I'm gonna forget about it in like an hour when I go back to stressing about everything. But the byproduct of being freelance really has been the feeling of, one, you're never doing enough, which is always existing. But because specifically for me, I had to prove myself. I mean, I've been doing Call of Duty for 13 years, and I'm still feeling like every day I have to prove myself. And like I feel like I'm on interview every time I'm casting. I had to prove myself doing Gears of War, and to get to that point and then do Pro League. I had to prove myself jumping into Halo, obviously. And like, I take pride in knowing that when I jump into a game, I want to start on the low level and then prove that I can do it and get up, which is, I appreciate that. But I've been doing Rocket League since 2020. It's not that long. I've only been here 3 years, right? But I still very much feel like the outsider. I still feel like every day I'm like, I don't belong. I need to prove that this is like my first week. I need to do my job and get better. So I think I've made strides for sure in getting better. But it's difficult because my freelancer brain is like, you know, nothing is stable for freelance.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. I can tell you that I think you're worthy of being an RLCS caster, but I'm not your employer, so that doesn't matter.
I know, I appreciate that. Thank you. No, yeah. So like, and that's not a negative, right? It's not. And Sonics has been great. Like, they've given me the space to be creative and try different things, right? Like, and I was able to kind of, you know, show them, they're like, hey, I'm not just this wacky psycho online. Like, when I go to a LAN environment, I'm very much serious. Because that's the big thing. Like, specifically during COVID, it was tough because, like, especially we did Rival Series for 3 weeks, and then we were shut down, and then we got thrown into RLCSX, which was great, and I got reps, but it was like, I haven't shown anything on LAN.
Yeah.
So stretching my limits online and being crazy, and then going to a LAN environment, and I know like a bunch of people were like, what's he gonna do? Is he gonna be insane? And when I got to LAN, I was like, here comes 12 years of Call of Duty, 3 years of Gears of War, and a couple years of Halo. That, like, when I know I need to be 1 billion% on point and professional, I will be that. So it was nice to be able to be like, no, this is what I will do for you on LAN. And that was fun. That made me feel good. But yeah, it's just esports. Like, if you're not solidified and if you're not guaranteed anything, you're always going to be thinking, like, am I doing enough? Is it really? Is this? So it's just, it's not a negative. It is what it is. And you just kind of rock with it. But yeah, you know, you move with the punches, you figure it out.
Yeah.
So.
But I think that overall, to summarize the emotions that you feel from this, I think the important thing is that I would say to people out there too is
Yeah.
is make sure that you acknowledge your growth, but never think you're the best, because the second you think you're the best, you will stop growing. And eventually it's possible for that ego to show, like people will feel it. And so I think it's important to continually just say, no, I'm not the best. I need to get better, because there will always be room to grow. If you do that, you're going to keep getting better, whether you realize it or not.
Yeah.
So that's
and hold yourself to the same level of work you do for any game, because there are definitely days where it's like I instead of doing 2 hours of notes, I do 1 hour notes, and not like there are days where I do 5 hours of notes. There are days where I only need to do 1 hour. But like there are some days where I'm like, I know the teams, I know the players, I know where we're at. I'll do like an hour of notes instead of 2 hours. That either works or it doesn't. If you've been doing it long enough, sometimes you get away with it. But most of the time, there are days where I have that, and then I have to pull myself back and be like, you know what? Even if I know it, I still need to do the work, because it reinforces that I need to take this seriously, and it reinforces that idea of just like, you don't want to look back and be like, if I had taken it more seriously, even though I thought I was, maybe things would have been different. I always want to be like, nope, I put in the work and I did what I had to do. And if it doesn't work out, at least I know I can do the work. Yeah. So, it happens all the time to talent who have been doing it a long time, but it's just about not about keeping yourself honest and humble, which is important, but also just like remembering that just because you made it, you still have to keep it. Yep. You still have to work to keep it. So, and
it's easy to let that slip.
100%. I've done it before, but like,
and I'm like,
you bounce back.
I feel I was like, I feel like in conversations I'm slacking here.
Sure.
I need to fix this. So it happens, but being able to acknowledge that it's good that you build that. I think it's important to build a foundation to the point that if you are just thrown into something, you'll handle, you'll survive, and maybe even thrive. But to always make sure that you understand the work that got you there, and that you have to keep that up. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Before I liked all that, and I think that was pretty conclusive. So I want to hard shift before I let you go here today. And what I do want to warn people is that if you're listening right now, I want to get some quick thoughts out on MCU stuff. So there will be spoilers.
Oh God.
On stuff. So a hard warning right now. I'm giving you plenty of time that if you're listening on Spotify to go hit pause, to don't hit pause, hit go to next episode or watch a previous episode.
Go to the next episode. Go watch a prior episode if you missed it.
Yes. If you're watching on YouTube, go browse to the channel and watch another video. But this will be, I wanted to get a couple discussions on MCU. You've seen Quantumania.
I have.
Okay. Because you're probably going to make your own content on this at some point. I just
try and get out next week.
I don't want to spoil everything you have to say, but go subscribe to Spaceman's channel, Spaceman SR, on YouTube.
I think it's Spaceman SR. I think that's my.
It'll be down below in the description.
If you type in Spaceman and anything Marvel or Star Wars,
don't type anything. Links in description below. But go there, watch, and make sure you're ready for that video that comes up. But quick initial thoughts, Quantumania, because as longtime just comic fans, Marvel fans, obviously we're heavily invested.
Yeah. Super.
Before I give any indication of, I said I have lots to say before I get.
Do you want a rating? Do you want a rating? Before we start?
Let's do that. I want your thoughts on it before I.
All right. Well, what was your out of 10? What was your rating of the movie?
So it also depends. I did the same thing for Multiverse of Madness. Is that as an MCU film, I thought it wasn't as good, but as an individual film, I thought if I just look at it as like this is a one-off, I thought it was a bit better. Because mostly my problem was with Wanda's character arc. I felt like was completely ignored from WandaVision. I'm like, but as a standalone, this was fun. You get what you get from Raimi, right? So it was a bit higher. With this, same kind of thing. As a stepping off point, I think it's great. I liked a lot of the stuff they did. But as a film itself, I have a lot of complaints about it, which worries me about future films. And I feel like we're now in a machine that isn't thinking, it's just moving. And so as an individual film, I would probably give it, I might even be dipping into, mind you, I have the MCU bias here, but I might be dipping into the 60s here.
I was going for 6 out of 10.
Yeah. And then, but as a stepping off point and possibilities, I enjoyed it anywhere from 7 to 9 of like the possibilities that this could induce for the world and the direction they took things like Kang or MODOK. And I saw some people complain about MODOK, but I enjoyed what they did. I thought it was perfect. I thought it tied in really well.
We'll get into that. Don't worry.
Yeah. But so a stepping off point different, but as a film. Yeah.
Yeah, look, I think the best comparison is Multiverse of Madness, just kind of recency wise. Multiverse of Madness. So I'm on the fence of, I understand why people did not like Wanda's jump. I actually didn't mind it. Again, I'm not gonna say whether it was good or bad. In terms of when I went in and I saw what they were doing with her and the decision they made, you either liked it or you didn't like it. For me, I was like, based on what I've seen from the end of WandaVision and blah, blah, I was like, okay, I'm on board. And I was fine with it. I was fine with her character arc. Granted, could it have been extended out to another maybe movie or whatever? Sure, not going to debate that 100%. But between that, I thought that Multiverse of Madness was a very good movie. It had its flaws, no question. But I thought it was a very good movie, and I really liked what they did with Strange. And I liked, was it multiverse? Not really, but like I liked what they did with it, and I liked the movie itself. So it was actually higher on my list than many people's. But for Quantumania, there were moments in that movie where I was like, oh, we're on board, baby. We're doing stuff. Like I'm game. We're making Ant-Man just interesting, blah, blah, blah. We're doing this stuff. And then there are other moments. Inside that movie is a very, very good movie. Inside Quantumania is an excellent Marvel movie. But there are so much stuff that is filled with that either was boring as hell, didn't matter, was kind of glossed over, or just seemed like a waste of time.
I think too much was happening.
It was just... That's the thing. It was like, in this movie, there are things that fucking are awesome. They're so cool. But everything around it, as cool as the world is that we're in, everything around it is so boring and just not what I'm here for. So I like a lot about that movie. I like a lot about Quantumania. But there's just so much stuff that exists in it that, I mean, we can just start talking about it now. Spoilers ahead if you haven't already figured it out. So Kang, fantastic. Thought he was excellent. The writing of the movie is not great.
The writing was one of my worst things for this film. It just the dialogue was
the writing
like,
was good in some instances, and other instances I'm like, this is there is. So I'm going to talk about it in my review. There was a moment it's in the moment where Michelle Pfeiffer is in the room with Kang in his throne room, and he's walking around and he's showing the timeline, and he's going into his diatribe. There was that moment when he begins speaking and he starts showing everything. It was the first time in a long time I got that feeling of like phase 1 and 2 Marvel back. I was like, this sense of wonder and awe, and like I'm sucked in. I'm listening to Kang talk about timelines.
Probably has a lot to do with Jonathan Majors, though.
Yeah. So I was like, oh my God, we're coming back. We're hitting. And the movie at that point, there's a lot of things that happened where I was like, I'll look over that. But the movie at that point, it was hitting stride. It was hitting a stride in the third act. I was like, oh baby, if this keeps up, this is gonna be a good movie. And then after that, I just went fucking shit. But like, there was that moment where I'm like, we're hitting phase 1 and 2 of Marvel. Oh my God, I didn't think that was possible. This is great. Jonathan Majors, fantastic. Kang, sometimes written, I was like, okay. Other times written, I'm like, that's great. They should have explored more with him. They should have shown more with him in terms of the timelines he's taken out. Less talk, more do. I thought some of the decisions they made with him in the third act were stupid. I thought the fact that he got sent into a Nether Void was just absolutely a waste of an opportunity to establish this version alone as the exiled one as a serious threat. Ant-Man, Scott Lang should have died. I'm sorry, he should have.
Or that was my problem.
Or have Kang escape and show up at the restaurant and be like, "Hi, Scott," and then all of a sudden, boom, holy shit, Scott let him out, and like, but I'm like, to not have him die, or to not have the original Ant-Man and the Wasp, imagine this, Ant-Man and the Wasp, the original ones, stuck in the quantum realm to sacrifice himself to save everything, even if Kang's still alive. They sacrifice themselves, and the end credits roll with Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, but it's about them, Hank and Janet, not Scott and Hope. So it's like the original Ant-Man and Wasp, that title card means them. That would have been a great way to send it off. But like, it's like, again, a really good movie in here, but small decisions that they made where I'm like, if you just change this, you got something, but you didn't, so now it sucks.
Yeah.
And it's like,
again, overall, I think dialogue was a little weak. I mean,
it was lacking. Please stop hiring TV writers to write this, please.
Yeah.
Please.
Janet's writing, it's just like anytime she was like, and she had a lot of exposition, was like, I just, none of it felt impactful.
I'm trying to protect you. I don't have time, bro.
Yeah, right. It's like, fucking tell your family, bro. Like,
Yeah.
it made no, like, it.
There are moments where the movie has like decent writing. Where like I'm not even thinking about the writing because it's just we're going.
Yeah.
And there are moments where you're like, this just doesn't feel.
And that
normal.
contrast.
Yeah, the acting is not good enough, unfortunately, to carry this, and this is not good writing. So
yeah.
like yeah.
Well, again, I think the actors did the best job they could.
No,
I really
good.
do
It's
think
just,
it was
like some of the chemistry. I was like, I don't know, I don't really like.
Well,
like
I think,
Cassie and Scott. I'm like, I don't believe that.
I think the problem with them was that I think there was just too much.
There's too much going on.
Just obviously the actors know how to act in green screen and stuff, and I think weren't they using the wall as well?
They were in the void, yeah.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
It's like it felt like they were
uncomfortable with being there. To be honest,
I thought the world the way it looked was great. I thought it was great. I thought that again there wasn't much substance in the conversations to do. Like it was just there wasn't a lot to do substance wise. With you're talking to the tribe leaders, you're talking to the people in the quantum realm. There's not a lot like when I think back to Civil War and I think back to the conversations between characters, think about it's not even an insane level of writing, but think about the substance of the conversations and the way we're having them. Like even when you're having Cap and Wanda sit on their bed and talk about the weight of
you got character out of their lines.
You're getting character. You're getting substance, even if it's just a mild conversation. It's just there's times in that movie in Quantumania where I'm like, even if the writing was this bad, if there was at least some fucking substance here, I'd be like, okay, like we're at least. There wasn't much happening. The chemistry between Scott and Cassie was pretty lackluster, and I think working in the void kind of hurt. So I'm like, I'm sorry, I don't care about these random tribe people. I don't care about their uprising. I could give a shit.
I think you could have cared about them, but they didn't do anything to make you care about them.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, we could have, but like, I swear to God, I've seen this in a billion movies.
It was Star Wars. I felt like I was watching Star Wars halfway through.
I genuinely did not care about the tribe. Like, and I'm sure the lady's a nice lady and a good actress, but the warrior woman who is like with the war paint, who's like caught in prison, and I'm like, why do I care about her? I don't. Why is she in the store? Why are we revolted? I don't give a fuck about her home.
I know.
Like the only people in this movie should have been Scott, Hope, Hank, Kang, and maybe Cassie. It should have been a small group, and that's it.
Well,
and
part of Lang's.
Now I'm getting pissed.
Yeah, part of his arc though was learning to actually be a hero for everyone, not just his daughter. So you needed something there, but they didn't make you care enough. Like if I didn't care, why would he care?
Exactly, and like I think they could have done more with that relationship. They could have done more where like maybe it's a flip where it's like, no, he actually does care more maybe about his persona than his kid. I don't think they would have done that, but like, or maybe show that he cares more about his kid in specific ways, because like the way that they emphasize that he cares about his daughter is by verbally saying, I love my daughter, I don't want you to hurt her. Like that doesn't tell me anything. I know you do, but put him in situations where he shows that he's willing to be selfless. And I thought the scene with him in the probability storm, and like all the ants of Ant-Man coming together, I thought that was fucking brilliant.
That was awesome.
I'm like, this is where you know the character. This is where you're showing me, not telling me that you know what you're doing. I'm like, yes. Yeah. That when Hank shows up with the ants and like it comes, I'm like, that's a great moment. Now Kang getting eaten by them, stupid. But like when Hank shows up with the ants, I'm like, that's a good Ant-Man moment. Yes, like you know what you're doing. There were so many times in this movie where I'm like, they know what they're doing right there. But everything else around it for the rest of the movie has just been like, what's going on? When Kang is talking about the timelines and shit, and he goes down and says, you think he can beat me? I'm Kang. I'm like, you know what you're doing. Yes, thank you. Like that's yes, but it's just everything else. I'm like,
yeah, that cell scene was very intimidating. I loved that.
I'm like the movie pulls you in because I'm like, oh baby, they're figuring it out. Here we go. And then it's like the next 20 minutes after that are just like, what are we doing here?
And how
like what?
My biggest thing is that by the end of it, you undermine everything you did about to build up such an incredibly powerful character.
Yeah.
By having
he's not a threat at the moment because you had him lose to Ant-Man.
Right. Like what that makes no sense. And at all.
And we both have to lose. How do we lose, Scott? How do we both lose? Because Kang dies and you're alive.
You don't.
Like, what does that line mean anymore?
Here's the thing. Maybe the vision's too big. Maybe again, the problem is that the film. This is why I say the film individually on itself does not stand. But I bet you, once you look at this as one episode of Phase 5 TV show, right? Then all of a
I agree
sudden
with that.
it becomes way more important.
Look, I agree with that, but the only thing I would say to counter it is yes, but when you're starting phase 5 with this is the first movie appearance of Kang and why he is a threat for phase 5 and 6, you cannot kill him at the end.
Yes, no, yeah,
You
can't. I
cannot
agree,
do that,
100%.
especially when the whole marketing is that he's the big bad trapped in the quantum realm. He's called the exiled one, and then you have a line in the trailer that Scott says we both have to lose. Everybody's thinking someone's gonna die.
Yeah.
So how does that now make sense when Kang died? Like, and you have and Jeremy Johns, who I watch religiously, one of my favorite YouTubers. So he was doing his review and he said something like this. He said, I know more Kangs are coming. I'm okay with that. But when the first Kang in his first movie is showing up, I'm now somewhat emotionally and psychologically attached to that one, not only because he was so cool, but because this is the first time our brains are seeing him, and this is what we think he is. We thought that Kang we were getting is the Kang we got, which is a good thing on the movie. But when you kill him, it's like, we want that Kang back. I want that exiled one who's a conqueror back because he's the first one we're seeing. And it's like, wait, that's the Kang we want. So when you take him away from us, now he's not only a threat, but you're like, the first one you're showing us is the one we all thought he would be. And now you're taking him away. Wait a minute, bring him back. Like, this is the way you introduce him and you're going to kill him? That doesn't make, when Thanos showed up, he killed people.
Yeah.
I'm like, bro, like I want this Kang back for the other movies. And I get we can't have that. That's fine. But I'm like, if you're doing this for the first movie in phase 5, I want that Kang. I want that one. And you took him away. And it's just like, why?
Which is why
I
think in the grand scheme, we'll look back and be like, okay, well, I see how that was a smaller piece to this larger thing. But I think you get that point across better by having at least the first one be somewhat of a formidable threat.
I don't give a shit. Kill him in Loki, but killing him in Ant-Man was a mistake.
Yeah.
Kill him in, have him in Loki. I don't care.
Because what you could also do is take this character, like he was so strong we couldn't beat him, have him show up in the future, and then maybe one of his own guys takes him out. You're like, holy shit, there's more powerful versions of him than the one that was so powerful we couldn't beat before. How do we beat this guy? You've now escalated. You've shown that he's already better and that there's better ones of him, right? Like you really can escalate how powerful he is by that.
It really is a writing thing. I think at the end of the day, I just like, I don't, maybe it's a decision like the Feige or somebody was like, hey, we got to kill him, blah, blah, blah. Sure. But again, I will overlook that if you write him better. I think, again, there were a lot of moments in this movie where we wanted to see Kang do stuff. We wanted to see his powers more. We saw his powers a little bit. We wanted to see his intelligence more. We wanted to see, I'm like, we got a little bit of everything, but not enough of everything to where I was like, this is the threat. I still think he's a threat because what I saw that I really liked. But for a lot of the movie, I'm like, they're not going deeper. Like, he's only in the movie for maybe 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And it's his movie, but he's in the movie for 10 fucking minutes. There is so much shit in this movie where I'm like, we could have cut out the entire Rebellion arc. We could have cut out a lot. Like, I thought the flying houses, awesome. A lot of stuff in the quantum realm, really cool. We could have cut out so much stuff in this movie and just focused on like exploring Kang, exploring his relationship with Janet, exploring his relationship with the quantum realm, exploring his relationship with himself. Like, when we touched on it, it was great. But then they pulled back and they had to force this movie through of a revolution that didn't fucking matter. And at the end of the movie, nobody really had a character arc. Janet tells people things. Hank doesn't really do much except finance. Hope doesn't do anything in the movie. Scott doesn't really grow. Scott doesn't really grow in any substantial way.
He made the decision to save other people besides his daughter.
Yeah, so like, okay, so like
he did complete his arc, but it wasn't.
But that's the thing, like, but here's the okay, I agree, 100% agree with you, 100% agree with you. But like, the basis of this movie should not have been the big hurdle is Scott trying to save others. Like, if that's the basis of a movie around Kang, that's the wrong narrative to push. Because
fair. Yeah.
When I walked out of the movie, I'm like, Cassie doesn't grow, and nobody else in this movie has a real character arc. Scott maybe proves that he can save somebody. It was more about saving Cassie than it was anybody else, and like, he still gave Kang what he wanted. Like, at the end of the day, no one really has a character arc in this movie, and it's just like, why are we here?
My girlfriend, her right after the movie, her words were, that felt so hollow.
Yeah,
like
again, there's a lot of good shit in this movie, but it's just, it could have just been a movie about Kang. They could have just had a whole movie about Kang alone, and that'd been great. But yeah, like, I agree with her. It's like, there's a lot of stuff that happens, and when you step back and you're done, you're like, Did anything really happen?
You can not watch Quantumania and then watch the rest of Phase 5 and probably not miss anything. I'm guessing.
100%. And
like you didn't miss, as you said, some crazy growth for this character that's going to take part in the next film. That killed the bad guy. Well, supposedly, I mean, it was teased that he's not actually dead, right?
Look, I don't need Scott to have a lot of character growth in a movie, because I'm not like when I look at character growth, I look at Steve and Tony and Thor until Love and Thunder. Like that was like I'm like, okay, these are good characters, right? I don't need Scott to have this insane journey personally. When he was doing Ant-Man stuff and being all little ants of himself, like I'm like, this is perfect Ant-Man action. This is what I want. It's like a comic book Ant-Man.
Yes.
If you had a whole movie like that and just had something a little bit more substantial than like just saving his daughter because he has to, like if you just had something a little bit more substantial for him, I wouldn't need him to have an insane character arc. But it's just like, you're like, okay, take the movie in its totality, everything that happened in it. This didn't really matter. This didn't really matter. It's like, really, why we were down here because of a MacGuffin, and then we got to see Kang, which was cool. But at the end of the day, that's it. That's kind of it, I guess. So, yeah, it just
I'm
felt
wondering.
hollow.
I'm wondering if the reason that everything took place in the quantum realm here, because again, I think back to the days of like in the original Ant-Man, when you can see Chronopolis in the background, like the fact that all these you have still felt like the sense of mystery of what's coming, what's happening, who's this? Oh, when we finally get him, it's going to be big, and that air of mystery is just like the reward I feel for watching everything is diminishing. Again, like you want people to be able to watch different films and still not feel like they missed much, but you want to reward the people that have watched everything in an interconnected universe. I'm wondering if they put everything is like their thought process is, well, if this doesn't go well, it's in the quantum realm, we can basically retcon so much of this in the future. And I wonder and to me, again, that feels like the thought process and the focus isn't on each individual film anymore being a good film and then just happenstance being a part of a bigger universe. It feels like they're thinking bigger universe first and the film can tag along, where it felt like it used to be the other way around.
Right. It very much felt like in phase 1 through 3, and I made a video on like why phase 4 kind of felt disjointed and like why the aura feels different. Is because the movies were movies first and proving that they had to prove themselves, and then the universe tagged along.
Yes,
and they did so where like the universe naturally tagged along, and even in phase 3 with Civil War and other stuff, like Civil War was very much universe first then story, but the story was still a 10 out of 10 because like all the groundwork had been done before then, and like the universe then had the rewards of the work that had been done before, and the story was still fantastic. It very much just felt like a lot in phase 4. It was like universe first then story. And specifically, I agree with you. Like it feels like now that that everything's set up, it's not. I don't believe anybody in Marvel goes in saying like we don't have to prove ourselves in this movie. But like when you look at the first Iron Man, the first Captain America, when you look at Winter Soldier, when you look at the first Avengers, even I love Age of Ultron. I know it has its problems. I know what people.
I thought it was still good compared to something like this.
Age of Ultron still did a lot, and it's like when you go in and you see what's going on, like it very much feels like with a lot of stuff, it's like. It doesn't feel like the same passion or the willing or the desire to prove that this works is maybe what's driving the boat here. And that like the universe, it's like the universe exists and we can play into it rather than the universe playing into what we're making now. Like it's like, oh, the universe is already established because when Endgame finished, we have everything now we can do with the multiverse. Everything's set up. And now we can just kind of throw things up and punch them into the universe, and if they land, they land. But it's like that's not what got Marvel here. What got Marvel here was a commitment to really good storytelling and like really good interpretations of what works and what doesn't. So,
2 questions to round this out, and then we'll be finished here. First one, do you think this is going to cause a bit of internal panic with the record that has been showing for the past few films across Eternals, this, and just the general reception? For the MCU, do you think because I've heard Feige said he's burnt out, and I wonder if that's what we're seeing. Do you think this is going to cause internal panic to make a shift to have films actually feel different or put more investment into these things?
I think yes and no. I think that not everybody, but a lot of people seem to think that Marvel's formulaic. Marvel doesn't try anything new. Marvel is formulaic. Absolutely. It's been formulaic since Iron Man 1. Every movie since Iron Man 1 has had somewhat of the same formula. Marvel doesn't try anything new. Disagree. We've had space thrillers in Guardians of the Galaxy Multiverse of Madness. We've had spy thrillers and dramas in Winter Soldier. We've had political and geopolitical commentaries on Civil War. We've had traditional superhero films in Avengers. Marvel has always tried new things. Marvel's always been formulaic. But the one thing that Marvel did in phases 1 through 3 is that they had excellent fucking writing. That has not come back. We had it in WandaVision, Winter Soldier, we had WandaVision, Loki, Falcon and Winter Soldier, except the villain and that was terrible. But like those are like, I feel like that was like the last time in phase 4 we had really good writing. I think script wise, dialogue wise in Black Panther, I thought the writing was really, really good. The script, you know, for what they had to do, can't blame them. I think they did a pretty good job. No Way Home, decent dialogue. The script was okay, but like it's a fun movie and you're never gonna hate it. I think in general, what Marvel has been struggling with, because they've been hiring a lot of TV people, been hiring a lot of people who are just like creative new heads and stuff, they have struggled with good writing. I mean, look at the quality of character development and conversation and nuance and film from the first couple of phases to now. Look at the way we were showing character interactions and progressions in Winter Soldier, in Civil War, in Iron Man, in Guardians. Like there was a way that things were shot, they were presented. There was a seriousness that was taken. Like I use Civil War a lot because I think it's a perfect representation of like new age Marvel and old Marvel. In Civil War, to wrap up, there was humor in Civil War without it being funny. There was jokes without it being humor. Like Bucky throws someone off a balcony and Steve catches him and Steve's like, come on, man, you serious? Like now we're stopping
But that fit
everything.
the character.
Exactly. It fit the character and it was natural in the moment. But now it's like, you know when the joke's coming. Now it's like the heavy moment, we stop, we joke a little bit, and then we move on. There is a formula that's been hitting lately that isn't working with Marvel, but what Marvel needs to do is go back to hiring really good writers. Like look at the early movies. They had really good writing. Say what you want about the plots of Iron Man 2 and 3. At least the writing, like it deconstructed Tony. It talked about his relation. Like the writing of early Marvel was about writing good stories. Infinity War and Endgame are good movies because they wrote really good fucking stories. It seems like the level of writing has dropped and we've gone more of trying to chase the universe rather than chasing the story that exists and then letting the universe come to us. Like we're hiring Rick and Morty writers. No shade there. They're good writers, but like, dude, we're going from.
There were a lot of parallels to Rick and Morty in this.
we're going from Marcus and McFeely, who wrote Winter Soldier and Civil War and Endgame and Infinity War, and the Russo brothers, who knew how to balance tone and everything better than anybody.
I want the Russo brothers back.
Stuff like, if they don't come back for Secret
they
Wars,
have to.
If they don't come back
to be
for
a
Secret
deal
Wars
work.
and Kang, I know Kang Dynasty is Daniel Dustin or whatever his name is. But if they don't get the Russos back, I will be very worried because honestly, they were so good at balancing people and knowing when to be funny and not like they were funny without being humorous. And it's just
they knew the characters. And they knew how they knew how to tie
just,
things together. Yeah.
Not everything. Somebody said this real quick. Somebody said this, and I 100% agree. They were like, there really is no like comedic relief character. Everybody's kind of written the same, and everybody kind of says jokes at any time.
The
like
Joss Whedon effect.
Yeah, everybody says jokes at specific times when we're expecting a joke, and every character is kind of written the same. I kind of agree with that. Where it's like Cassie and Scott are, yes, they're different people, but they're all written the same. Everybody kind of feels like they're written the same, whereas Steve was written one way, and you knew what to expect from him and how he would joke about something. Tony was written one way, and how he would see the world. Natasha was one way. Like, it felt like there was a difference of identities, whereas now the names are, the faces are different, but like it feels like everybody's the same. And it just, you can feel that. So
what character do you care about the most right now in phase
probably
4?
Spider-Man.
But that he feels different. He still feels like he cares about the little, like he's got personality, and he's always been a quippy guy, but he's supposed to be, right? All these other characters, I'm not attached to. I'm excited to see Young Avengers, but I just don't feel attached to these kids 100%. Yet. You know,
I think them having Spidey be the lead is a really good step because I think one, also you need a really mature director coming in for 4, 5, and 6 to give Spidey like a mature story because he needs to come into his own, which I think Sam Raimi would be great. Honestly, I really do for like how he handled Spider-Man 2. But I think the big litmus test for Phase 5 and maybe Marvel moving forward is Guardians 3 because that's the one where it's disconnected from everything. We haven't had Guardians in a while, and James Gunn he might be able to get that old school Marvel feeling back that I think we're missing. Because like that looks like it's a bit of a serious tone. The shots look great. The cinematography look. I think that could be like, oh, this is what Marvel used to be. Like that's great. So yeah.
Question. And this is the second question, the final one.
Yes.
Conspiracy theory time.
There we go.
Do you think there's DC, Marvel in cahoots? What's happening right now is Marvel intentionally bombing things because we're getting a reboot for DC coming soon, DCU, and then it's going to be fantastic. And then people are going to get so hyped on that. And it's artificial choice right now, right? You think you're choosing between these. Everyone jumps to DC. It's great for the next few years. And then all of a sudden, it all comes together. Battle World. Bring everything together. Secret Wars. Fuse all of the universes together. DC, Marvel together.
You want like
and then people go, oh my God, I need to continue. I need to go back and watch all the Marvel stuff. This is insane because now they care about this. And it all comes together.
As cool as that would, as unfortunately,
very
cool
conspiracy.
As that would be, yeah, no, 100%. Like as cool as that would be to see that in live action, and I hope that's as cool as it is for the end result, not the result now of Marvel suffering. I don't think so because I think, I mean, like obviously, like Marvel sacrificing their own quality is just insane.
I didn't believe it. I just wanted to present it.
No. But I think that brings up an interesting point. Why I want DC to succeed? One, because DC has great characters that if they can succeed, God damn, that would be great. But it'll force Marvel to get it together a little bit. Like it'll force Marvel to be like, oh, we are no longer the king of the castle. Like we now need to go back to making quality, because it wasn't just that Marvel was better than DC movies inherently, but that Marvel was writing their characters way better than DC was.
They cared about the characters.
We've lost that. So like, you know, it's I think Chadwick's death did a lot to kind of disrupt the chamber going forward, 100%. But look, at the end of the day, it's not a tone thing. It's not that we didn't like anything. It's not that we didn't like new stuff with Eternals. It's not that we didn't like wacky stuff with Multiverse of Madness. It's not that we don't like it's too serious for its own good in Ant-Man, which it wasn't, by the way. It's that the writing has not been good. The writing across the board has not been great. That's the number one problem. And that's what everybody keeps forgetting. It's not a tone thing. Eternals would have been great if the writing was better.
I was excited for Eternals because of the cinematography, the tone, everything about it was so different than what we'd seen. Yeah. And then that third act was like, what did I just watch?
Like,
too much was going on.
The acting has been a little bit subpar lately with Marvel. The acting maybe could be better. And the writing hasn't been up there. So, you know, I think it's all that. It's just like, I don't think people need to be mad about Marvel shills only like one formula. No, dude, there's a billion different formulas that exist in Marvel. What we don't like is bad writing.
Yes.
And that's what we've been getting.
There we go.
So that's at the end of the day, that's what it is. Legitimately, like writing makes or breaks everything.
Yes.
Obi-Wan Kenobi versus Andor. There's a clear difference between writing. And it just right there. So yeah, that's my spiel.
I like it. If you want more spiels, go check out his YouTube in the link description below. I don't know how many people are going to watch this, but I hope they all go over there and get you 50 extra views.
I need the 50. Thank you so much for coming.
Added to the 200,000 you're about to get on your next video.
Oh, God. I changed thumbnails today because I was like just hating the thumbnail I made. So we'll see if, fingers crossed, that changes anything. But.
Yeah, you can try some A/B testing while you're going too.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, come up with a couple thumbnails, and then every hour after posting, switch it. See if your CTR goes up and down.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
Cool. All right. Well, I want to say thanks for joining. You said you don't think you'd be able to hit as much as CJ. You went past CJ.
You brought up Marvel. Fuck you, dude.
Yeah, I did try. I did cheat.
You know I was gonna be here.
I cheated at the end. So we still hit like hour 30 without Marvel. So
I know that's pretty good.
Yeah, that's pretty solid. So I appreciate. I actually have more I want to talk to you at some point in the future, but I'm gonna let you go for now. Shout outs again, Spaceman SR on his YouTube, and just hey, dude, thanks for chatting.
Thanks for having me. I love chatting. We chat YouTube all the time and stuff. So it's nice to kind of just shoot the shit, talk about the business, talk about YouTube.
Cool.
Check out Lief's channels. Go subscribe to his channels, by the way. And he's getting creative with other stuff. He's doing Star Citizen and other gaming channels and just content stuff that you should check out as well because he's diversifying. So go find that portfolio available in the description where he'll have all the links.
Don't listen to this heathen. Don't listen to this heathen. We're going to get out of here. Thank you guys for watching. More episodes on the channel. I hope you enjoy them. Peace.